Peace be upon you. Is it true that science neither indicates nor disproves the existence of Allah?
Scientifically, you can't say that there is a God using science that humans have been creating for more than 400 or 500 years, which is based on experiments and observations. We cannot prove the existence of Allah scientifically.
Science in itself, my brothers, mere science does not prove or disprove Allah's existence.
Let's discuss this carefully. Science is empirical knowledge, acquired by observation and experimentation. Observation includes studying phenomena, observing the mechanisms, probing the cellular and atomic worlds, as well as planets and galaxies, and discovering laws of science. Experimentation includes formulating hypotheses and conducting experiments according to scientific methods. Therefore, science in this episode refers to both types, experimental and observational, with emphasis on observational as it is the basis for experimentation. You observe phenomena and relationships, formulate hypotheses on that basis, then test them experimentally. So, with this definition, does science prove or disprove the existence of Allah? First, is it possible to prove Allah's existence experimentally? The answer is no. But experimentation is not everything in science. Science includes observing phenomena and deriving laws, as we mentioned. So, can the existence of Allah be proven by observation? No. Observing Allah Himself is not possible. So does this mean that science does not guide us to Allah's existence? It most definitely guides to Allah without doubt. Not only Allah's existence, but also His attributes. How is that? We demonstrated how science is founded on a system of 4 sources that integrate to generate scientific knowledge. Science is not confined to sensory inputs. A human being is not merely a camera capturing images labeled as science, or a recorder preserving sounds that are then called science. Sense alone, dear viewers, does nothing. Using the mind, axioms, and previous research testimony, substantiated by evidence, is an integral part of science, as we've explained in detail. Britain's Science Council provided what it called the first official definition of science as follows: the pursuit of knowledge and understanding of the natural and social world following a systematic methodology based on evidence. Knowledge, understanding, methodology, and evidence are all terms that require the use of the mind. Thus, science is based on the mind. Allow me here to restructure the diagram in a way that highlights the role of the mind, its relationship to the other sources of knowledge, and its relationship to science. The mind proceeds from axioms, i.e., mental necessities such as causation, and the conviction that there is order in the universe. It then builds upon past research testimony, analyzes sensory inputs, and links between them. It ultimately uses all these sources to produce science. Thus, the mind plays a central role in this system. Science is only one of the forms of knowledge that depend on the mind. Knowledge is not only science. There are other aspects that reasonable people agree are part of knowledge even though they aren't included in the definition of science. Mathematics, for example, is a form of knowledge that depends on the mind, even though it is neither experimental nor observational. Rather, many experimental and observational sciences depend on it. Collaborated historical accounts are a form of knowledge, such as the existence of pharaonic, Persian, and Roman civilizations as proven by their remnants, collaborative accounts of their events and battles, and the consensus of history books on the details of their biography. Saying that these civilizations existed in the past is knowledge, even if it is not included in the definition of science. Moreover, in your daily life, you are certain that things exist, even though you did not observe or experience them firsthand, because of corroborative testimony, which left no room for doubts about their truth and accuracy. Thus, knowledge is a wider circle, and science is one of its forms, and all these forms of knowledge are based on mental processes. Mathematics is a mental process. Accepting testimony by verifying its evidence is a mental process. Similarly, science is based on mental processes. Outside the circle of knowledge, there is only ignorance, delusion, suspicion, and misinformation. So, where will this mind, which is the basis for knowledge, lead us if we use it to analyze the observations of science? Let me remind you, dear viewers, about some of these observations. I will not go into detail about these observations now, as they were already explained in detail in previous episodes. This is just a brief reminder of the beauty, magnificence, and precision in answer to the question that we have been raising continuously. Are these observations indications of absurdity, nihilism, randomness, blindness, and chance? Or are they indications of will, knowledge, wisdom, and intent? The total length of DNA in a single human, if stretched out, is billions of kilometers. Yet it is undergoing continuous transcription. Genetic coding with each nucleus containing a tremendous amount of information that is transformed into proteins, i.e., physical matter. The synthesis of billions of different protein types in the human body from only 20 to 25,000 genes, thanks to processes like alternative splicing and post-translational modifications. The existence of billions of species living on Earth, each expertly designed and integrated within its environment with no evidence of randomness, blindness, or unintentionality. The resistance of bacteria to antibiotics by producing proteins composed of hundreds of precisely arranged amino acids. What the length of a giraffe's neck requires in terms of heart size, thickness of the heart's walls, the valves of its blood vessels, the wonderful rete mirabile, the thickness of the skin of the giraffe's legs, and the genetic code responsible for all of this. The great similarity between the placental and marsupial organisms, despite the large difference in their genetic code. The eye, its structure, and the position of its retina, the penguin and the structure of its wings, and so on. These are but a few examples drawn solely from the field of biology, which is full of examples of mastery and precision. We have not even discussed the Earth, its layers, atmosphere, and elements, or astronomy and the galaxies. Would any sound mind, free from psychological obstacles, conclude that all this is evidence of chance, randomness, and blindness, or that it's evidence of knowledge, wisdom, power, and intent? Would the mind conclude that all of this was done by nothing, or that it is an intended action by a doer? This doer, whose attributes of knowledge, wisdom, ability, and greatness are indicated by scientific observations, is known in the Islamic system as Allah, glorified and exalted is He. Thus, we do not assume the existence of Allah. Instead, it is the mind, which we use in science, that infers from this form of knowledge, i.e., science, another form of knowledge, knowledge of the Creator and His attributes. If we discredit the mind, we must discredit science. But if we use it, its clearest indication is the existence of the Creator and His attributes. Hence, you either accept the mind and its findings, or discredit it along with its findings. It is a correlational relationship. Therefore, it is neither scientific nor rational to use the mind to produce science, then prevent the mind from taking the extra step of guiding you, through this science, to the Creator and His attributes. This is selectivity, unjustified by mind or knowledge. No additional sources of knowledge are required to prove Allah's existence besides those used to build science. It is the mind itself. All that's needed is for you not to place restrictions on the mind and prevent it from taking a step forward to infer the existence of the Creator and His attributes. All that's needed is for you not to be narrow-minded. Science is not images, sounds, or mere numbers, and the human being is not a senseless, mindless machine that snaps images without analysis or deduction. Science is knowledge, and when we say knowledge, it means mental processes are involved. As long as the mind is involved, it has no choice but to submit to the existence of a creator. So what exactly has materialism done? Materialism prevented the mind from using science to infer the existence of the Creator and His attributes, claiming that it was not material knowledge. Materialism played on words and confined knowledge to science, then considered anything outside science to be non-scientific, ignorance, blind faith, and delusions. After confining knowledge to science, materialism used the either-or fallacy, either science, which it had restricted knowledge to, or ignorance. Thus, whenever a scientist wants to go beyond the artificial limitations imposed on science by materialism, materialists accuse him of moving from scientific thinking to emotions and myths, and they describe him as non-scientific. Materialism excluded other forms of knowledge from this duality, even those it considers scientific, despite them being outside the sphere of science, such as mathematics and documented history, for which materialists produce documentaries and give much attention. We may therefore ask, why such selectivity? Why did materialism deal with the existence of the Creator and his attributes differently from other things that were proven by the mind, not by science, such as mathematics and history? When the mind and innate nature urged us to understand the origins of the universe and life, and to explain the mastery, precision, and order, materialism proposed explanations such as random evolution, the self-existing universe, infinite multiverses, and microbial intelligence. Materialism then shoved these explanations into the circle of science, even though they are neither material nor deduced by the mind. Instead, they contradict it. These explanations do not relate to knowledge in any way, nor are they within its circle. Rather, they stem from ignorance and delusions. Yet materialism proposed these explanations as an alternative to the existence of the Creator, which is true knowledge inferred by the mind. This is aside from what we previously discussed regarding materialism's annulment of all the sources of knowledge, on which science is based. Note how I insist on referring to it as science, or observational experimental knowledge, not knowledge, because the trap of materialism starts with limiting knowledge to science. When we understand this system and realize that the mind is at its core, we will know that deducing the Creator's existence is knowledge, knowledge supported by evidence, including science. Therefore, a person who deduces the existence of the Creator through science is someone who rejected the fake boundaries set up by materialism and allowed his mind to reach a higher level of knowledge above the limitations of observation. It is not a leap of faith, a belief without evidence, but a leap of mind, a scientific, evidence-based, deducible mental process. We have also shown how the sources of knowledge, including science, have no credibility outside the system of belief in a Creator. Please note, dear viewers, that we are only discussing one of the arguments for the existence of Allah related specifically to science, which is the argument of fine-tuning, as we have previously gone into detail on the cosmological argument, which is a logical proof, and the innate proofs for the existence of Allah. May Allah have mercy on Ibn Taymiyyah, who said, "The greater the need, the more generous Allah is in providing it." Mankind's greatest need is to know their Creator and His attributes, and thus He provided ample proof of His existence in the universal signs, the minds, and the innate nature. So if Allah and His attributes can definitely be deduced from science, why did many scientists not become believers? Is it because, as someone claims,
Stephen Hawking is a great scientist, an exceptional scientist, but he is not a philosopher? I know what I'm saying. Nor is he a great theologist. Science in itself, my brothers, pure science, mere science does not prove nor disprove the existence of Allah. Do you know why? Because science is not metaphysics. It does not address what is beyond nature, if it believes in it in the first place. Science only addresses that which is observable. Therefore, all scientific facts can be used as premises for deductive analogy and reasoning to prove something, or maybe its opposite, depending on the scientific, theological philosophy, or metaphysical stance that the scientist holds.
regardless of what the speaker meant, some may understand from his words that scientific observations in themselves are unbiased and do not prove anything, and that they simply get shaped according to the scientist's philosophy. Thus, the same scientific fact becomes open to multiple philosophical interpretations, allowing a believer to use it to support his faith, while an atheist uses it to support his atheism, as if the believer's mind guided him to the existence of Allah, while the atheist's mind guided him to deny Allah's existence. Our response, dear viewers, is that the mind cannot reach a conclusion and its opposite. The mind cannot conclude one thing and its opposite simultaneously. It cannot conclude that this universe is the result of wisdom, knowledge, and greatness, and that it is also the product of chance, randomness, and blindness. The philosophy of someone who concludes that there is no creator cannot be called scientific. It is not the mind that led him to this conclusion. Rather, this conclusion cancels the mind. But these scientists seem to be sane and intelligent, not crazy. So what leads them to such conclusions? What hinders their minds from deducing the Creator and His attributes? We discussed several reasons in previous episodes, such as psychological issues stemming from the behavior of the church, which led them to a false dilemma, a choice between a distorted form of religion or materialism, atheism, instead of seeking a belief system that aligns with the mind and the innate nature. Arrogance, vanity, and preference for the worldly life, fear of the dominant Darwinian lobby, or an attempt to gain its favor, and engagement in logical fallacies and psychological manipulation, such as the 15 fallacies we have exposed thus far. Just because a person is knowledgeable in their field does not mean they are unbiased or honest. It is not our concern to analyze why an atheist chooses atheism. What matters is not to lease our minds to anyone out of fascination with their titles and accomplishments, and to realize that their use of scientific observations to justify their atheism does not mean these observations truly point in that direction or that they are unbiased. These same observations inevitably guide the rational person, free from obstacles, directly to the Creator and His attributes. Therefore, our aim throughout the journey of certainty has been to give you the scientific facts plainly and clearly, so that you do not lease your mind to us or to the atheists, nor imitate us or them, but rather allow your minds to judge. Do these facts and natural observations prove randomness, coincidence, blindness, and nihilism? Or do they prove creation by a self-subsisting, all-knowing, wise, omnipotent, and mighty Creator? We explained how the Escherichia coli bacteria copied the gene it needed and inserted the copy in exactly the right place in its genetic material to give itself the ability to take in and metabolize citrate in very precise steps, very similar to genetic engineering. We showed how materialists completely reversed the inference to present it as an example of useful randomness, and how they turned examples of the greatness in creation, such as the retina, the penguin's wings, and the pelvic bones of the whale, into examples of flaws in design and vestigial organs. We showed how they explained the splendor and perfection in the cell by claiming that it may have come from alien seeding, i.e., that space aliens seeded life on Earth. We've seen the logical fallacies and forgeries they use in all of this. So, does such behavior prove that these scientific facts are subjective? Or does it prove what Allah says, what can be translated as? Say, observe what is in the heavens and earth, but of no avail will be signs or warners to a people who do not believe. You might say, you cite the Quran, but suppose I do not believe in it. I'll tell you that, in fact, I am using reality to prove to you the truth of the Quran. In our previous episodes, the scientific facts were made crystal clear to tell you. Now that you have seen the magnificence of these observations, what description should be given to those who use them to deny the Creator's existence except that of the Quran, and none but the unjust reject our signs? Reality testifies to the truthfulness of the Quranic description of these people. The more you understand scientific facts, the more you recognize the truth in the Quranic description of whoever rejects them as kafir, meaning one who hides the truth. We clarified the facts for you. Now, when someone denies their indication of the Creator or goes further to use them as evidence for his atheism, you know that he is a liar who is betraying the trust of knowledge. Allah says, what can be translated as, and none reject our signs except the treacherous and ungrateful, i.e., ungrateful for Allah's bounty. This should motivate you not to leave natural science to these people, but learn it yourself and carry its trust. After this address to the general public with logical evidence, we now address the Muslims who may be afflicted with the notion that natural science is unbiased, i.e., that it neither proves nor disproves the existence of Allah. At the same time, they do not realize how much this notion contradicts the Quran they believe in. To them, we say, the most frequently cited evidence for the basics of faith in the Quran are the visible universal phenomena, i.e., science, observational science. Modern observational science provides detailed insights into these phenomena, revealing even more of their beauty, splendor, and wonder. Therefore, if you claim that the observations of modern science are not proof for the Creator, it means that this ayah, do they not ever reflect on camels, how they were masterfully created, is meaningless, and that all the phenomena that the Quran describes as, indeed in that are signs, are not really signs. Contemplate the last ayahs of Surah Ar-Rum, after the talk about scientific observations in the souls and horizons. Surely in this are signs for people who reflect. Surely in this are signs for those of sound knowledge. Surely in this are signs for people with reason. The indication of the visible and detailed scientific observations, which natural science describes in great detail, of the existence of their creator is the paramount universal fact, the first axiom and mental necessity. Using universal observations, the Quran indicates not only the existence of the creator, but also his oneness as evidenced in the uniformity of his dominion, his greatness, wisdom, mercy, self-subsistence, and ability to resurrect. The deduction concerns these matters, and it is a definitive one. Can you believe, after all this, that some still claim that scientific observations don't even point to the existence of a creator? Imagine how lost and misled are those who say, "Don't mix faith with science. You are religiously obligated to reflect upon the observations of science, which are Allah's universal signs, in order to strengthen your faith." As a Muslim, you must not be dragged into the narrative that separates science from Allah, or confine your mind to the imaginary limitations set by materialism. Otherwise, you will deprive yourself of benefiting from Allah's signs in creation and the ayahs of the Quran, which advise you to benefit from these cosmic signs. In fact, it may be a sign of Allah's absolute justice and mercy that as time passes and people move further away from the prophetic era, these scientific proofs multiply to provide new evidence for us. A blessing from Allah that our predecessors who lived around the prophetic era did not have. Allah says, "Say with Allah is the perfect proof and argument." Therefore, the problem isn't lack of proof and arguments, as they are compelling and persuasive to those of sound mind and heart. And when we see that many natural scientists are materialists, it should not make us question the strength of the evidence that Allah Almighty has established. Some of these scientists are intelligent in their fields, but this has nothing to do with the soundness of their hearts, which, if absent, undermines the scientist's ability to fully utilize his mental capacity and leads him to completely reject the acknowledgement of Allah and replace it with belief in utterly trivial theories. But neither their hearing, sight, nor intellect were of any benefit to them whatsoever, since they persisted in denying Allah's signs. Those who deny the Creator, according to the Quranic description, don't understand. Even if they use their minds in science and excel in it, they still don't understand because they blocked their minds from benefiting from science by using it to infer the greatest form of knowledge, the existence of the Creator and His attributes. Allah says, what is be translated as, "Have they failed to look at the earth, to see how many types of fine plants we have caused to grow in it? Surely in this is a sign, yet most of them would not believe." This is observational science. Modern observational sciences have unveiled more details about the grandeur of creation. Surely in this is a sign. One assertion after another. Surely in this is a sign. We've established that science undoubtedly has signs. Where's the problem then? The ayah continues, "Surely in this is a sign, yet most of them would not believe." They are not willing to believe. If a blind man is asked, "What do you think of this beautiful scenery?" and he answers, "I don't see the beauty you are asking about," would this be a problem in the scenery or in the blind person? Would we say that it is a subjective view, as the scenery exists and is beautiful for the sighted, while it neither exists nor is it beautiful for the blind? No, the scenery certainly exists and is definitely beautiful, but the problem is in those who don't see it or perceive its beauty. It is no surprise then that the Quran constantly describes those who disbelieve as blind, a blindness of heart and insight. Blindness of eyesight may be compensated by the mind, hearing, and innate nature, and the patients will be rewarded. As for those with blind insights, but neither their hearing, sight, nor intellect were of any benefit to them whatsoever, since they persisted in denying Allah's signs. In conclusion, when are asked, does science indicate the existence of Allah? The answer is, for any sane person, the strongest indication of science is Allah's existence and His attributes. Each aspect of the various scientific observations indicates certain facts, which collectively indicate a mighty, wise, self-subsisting, all-knowing Creator who perfected everything He created. That is the design of Allah, who has perfected everything. Surely He is all aware of what you do. May the peace of Allah be upon you.